When I was 6 years old in the first grade, I was diagnosed with ADHD. Many of my early childhood memories were molded by this diagnosis. For instance, I have a very vivid memory of a book report I was once supposed to turn in. The teacher had reminded us on Friday before we left for the weekend that we had a book report that was supposed to be handed in on Monday morning. Well, come Monday morning, lo and behold, I had completely forgotten that we had this assignment. My dad didn't believe that I had forgotten by accident. He thought I had done it on purpose. I had deliberately chosen not to do the assignment. This wasn't true, and it resulted in a very long and drawn-out and emotional argument with my father that morning. Experiences like this are common for most people with ADHD because people just don't understand the disorder. So my goal here today is to help educate you on ADHD, help explain what it is, and tell you a little bit about the difficulties that those living with ADHD face on a daily basis. Believe me, it's very real and very frustrating for those that suffer it. ADHD is a mental disorder that's caused by a difference in brain chemistry. Could be the size of the brain or the hormonal imbalance. It doesn't just affect children, contrary to popular belief. The book ADHD by Amy Farrar explains that as many as 3 to 5% of adults and 6 to 10% of children in the United States suffer from ADHD. The book ADHD by Barbara Sheen talks about 3 different kinds of ADHD that are common in society. The first is inattentive ADHD. Inattentive ADHD is more commonly known as ADD. This is characterized by an inability to focus, particularly inability to focus on tasks and information that's just not interesting to the person that's learning it and trying to focus. Conversely, what most people don't know is that people with ADD also have the ability to hyper-focus on things that are of common interest to them. For instance, I love to read. And as I'm reading a book, I get so absorbed in the book that I can't hear people around me talking. I have no idea of the passage of time. And I'm just so absorbed in the book that I'm not conscious of anything else going on around me. Inattentive ADHD affects about 30% of those that are diagnosed with ADHD, and it's the only form that affects more females than males. Hyperactive or impulsive ADHD is the rarest form of the disease and affects only about 9% of those with ADHD. This is the one that people commonly think of as being restless, fidgety, impatient, acting without thinking. Kind of classic, people think about, well, this is what a child typically is, but people with ADHD often don't grow out of it the same way that normal children do. Combination ADHD is a combination of the both of them, kind of like it sounds. You get the inattentiveness and the fidgeting and the restlessness, acting without thinking on impulse, all of that. It's the most common form of the disease, and it affects about 61% of those that have the disease. As far as the difficulties go, many people, because ADHD has no physical symptoms or physical signs of the illness, like a lot of mental illnesses, many people believe it doesn't exist. They believe it's made up, it's fake, it's a conspiracy by the pharmaceutical companies who just want to sell medication. For example, I had a former teacher of mine, Misty Gatlin-Fitch. She is an author and a teacher in Keller ISD. She runs an online blog where she has discussed on numerous occasions her teaching job and her personal struggle with ADHD. She detailed in a post in October of 2013 how she had been, since the beginning of her teaching career in 2002, she had been an active believer that ADHD was made up, that it was just an excuse for lazy, forgetful behavior caused by parents who didn't want to parent and too much television. Until she was diagnosed herself with ADHD in 2011, and she discovered just how real the struggle is. In addition, those with ADHD, because of the mental imbalances, they're predisposed toward other mental illnesses as well. 25% of those with ADHD will go on to be diagnosed with depression, and 58% of students with ADHD and children with ADHD will end up being diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder. ADHD is a very real, very frustrating, and sometimes crippling disorder that affects millions of people worldwide, especially in the United States. In fact, this disease affects our ability to function so much that it was almost too hard for me to sit down and work on this speech. It was only because of the loving support of my husband that I was able to sit down and finally focus enough to finish this. So the next time you hear somebody tell you that they have ADHD, please don't roll your eyes. Don't shake your head at them. Be understanding, be caring, be conscientious, and be supportive. Your friends and family will thank you for it. Thank you.